Hey guys, I'm putting together a walkthrough for you of the CSS Box Model 1 assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen so you guys can see what I'm looking at. It's going to be a lot of code that we're going to do, but I want to first begin by just taking a look at the actual assignment itself. So this is in the week 5 area of our class, and it's the in-class 01 CSS Box Model assignment. Spec sheet is here. We'll do a quick run through on this. This is a pretty detailed assignment sheet. You're going to want to have this open along while you're coding. It's best recommendation I can give you. You may even want to just print it up, have a copy of it, because it's very much going to walk you through what I'm looking for. But essentially what you're going to be doing is using the provided wireframes that are in this document. This is a 5-page document. You're going to be recreating each of these grids on these next 4 pages on its own HTML page, and it should have its own accompanying CSS file. That's going to make for a total of 8 files. These files should all be located in one root folder, titled your last name, first initial, in class 01. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and make a folder for that right now inside of my class root folder. You're going to want to do the same. So I'm just opening up my CDN219 in Fleece folder. This is going to go inside the assignments folder, and I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder in there and title it in Fleece _P in class 01. All right, cool. So we got that root folder set up. The names for each of the documents that you're going to be putting in this folder will be found on the top of their respective spec sheet. You'll see me kind of going through that. Each container that we're putting together in these pages should have just a basic text label that you can put inside of there in the HTML. For example, in a header, you might want to put like just a label, so calling it header, or typing in something like this is the header. Each container should also contain a background color of your choice. Feel free to use the hexadecimal color generator. For example, here's a nice one, hexcolortool.com, or Google the term for a quick color picker. And when I'm saying Google the term, you would be Googling the term hexadecimal color generator. The deliverables, what you guys will be doing is zipping up your entire root folder, submitting that then to the Google Drive. Your root folder should follow the same naming convention that we have been using for this assignment. This will actually be due at the beginning of class next week. So this is what the individual sheets look like. Let me see if I can zoom out here a little bit. So the file names are at the top of each page. So for this one, we're going to make an HTML document called grid1 HTML. We're going to be making a style sheet called grid1style.css. We're going to be making then a number of these containers that are going to go inside. It'll have a header, it'll have a nav, it'll have a banner. In here, if you look, I'm giving you the tags that it'll be using to make these containers. So we'll use a header tag for the header, nav tag for the nav. For the banner, there is no banner tag. So we'll be using a div and we'll be giving it a name of banner. Any margins that will be in between these are listed as follows. And then I've got heights and widths for these set as well. Okay. Again, the HTML to create this content area is going to be a div in the class name content. And again, there's a margin here and then there's a footer. Okay. So I'm going to walk you guys through that now. I actually have the spec sheet open on a monitor right next to me as well. So I'll be referencing that regularly, just like I'm recommending you guys have a copy of this open as well when you go ahead and do this. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize the D2L class, jump into Visual Studio Code, and we'll get down to it. So I'm going to start with a brand new file. I'm going to go ahead and create the grid1 HTML file right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this. One second, I'm not sure what that file is right there. So I'm just going to do file new. Oh, really what I should be doing here is not doing a file new. What I should be doing is opening up my starter file. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. I'll screen a little bit for you guys. I'm going to go to my my root folder. There it is. I'm going to go to my resources. I'm going to start with my starter file. There we go. Okay, so at this point, just like any time that we use the starter file, we're going to do a save as. So file, save as. I'm going to put this inside of the root folder and then inside of the assignment root folder. And I'm going to call this, as the assignment sheet designates, grid1.html. Okay. Cool. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and put in the code that's needed to build this, the HTML code. And this is all going to happen inside the body. So again, on the assignment sheet here, what we are needing to do is putting in a header. Those are the same tags that are inside the assignment spec sheet. And as the assignment spec sheet says, we should put something in the header to label it as such. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in like this is my header. Okay. Next, we drop in the navigation. The navigation happens with a nav tag. Oh, I do not want to do all caps while I'm coding. So nav, and then that's going to have a closing nav tag. And again, I'll put the label in there. Okay. Next up is the content area. Now, there is no tag specifically for content. So we can put in a div. And as we talked about in the lecture for week 5, we want to give that a specific name so we can target that specific div and not affect all of the divs equally with our code. This gives us the ability to target individual divs. In the class attribute is how we do that. And the attribute I'm giving you guys inside of the assignment sheet, we're calling that content. And then last of all, here, actually, we should probably put something in there. Let's just say content goes here. And then last but not least, we have got our footer. And we can put something in there. All right, now we're going to save that and we're going to make the accompanying style sheet that's going to go with that. So again, I'm just going to make a new document. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And the assignment sheet is asking that this document be called grid1. I don't want to do caps there. So grid1 style.css. Cool. Now I do have to link this to the HTML document for it to work. So I'm going to come back to my HTML document for a moment. And I'm going to go ahead in here and I will add in a link to make that happen. I'll do href. That will contain the path to the document. There we go. Again, don't forget that closing caret right there. That's an easy one to forget. All right, so now we're going to then go ahead and style all 4 of these elements, the header, the navigation, the div, and the footer. And all of that's going to happen with using the dimensions that I'm giving you guys again in that assignment sheet. So we're going to call out to the header tag here first in our style. The header, we are wanting to have a width of 960 pixels. Do not forget the px, that's critical. Will not work without that. And don't forget the semicolon there at the end. Let's see, the height on this is 40. That space, it will work without the space. I just prefer having everything consistent. So I'm just going to go with no spaces here on these. Let's see, we do need a background color. As stated in the sheet, we're going to want background colors for all of these. You can, again, either use a hexadecimal color code generator to get very specific hexadecimal colors. You can even get those colors even out of like Adobe programs. Let's see. Sorry, that's a project I was working on last night. You can, pick any color actually in an Adobe program, and this is what the hexadecimal color code for any color will always show up down here. So that's another way you can get those hex codes if you want. So you can use some very specific colors if you prefer, or you can type in some generic ones here, like I'm just going to say red for this quick example here. We can also, if we want the header to, if we want these containers to center, we can certainly do that as well. Like I can say like margin and just set that to auto. That is the code that we would use to center a tag. Okay, let's try this out though. Let's just make sure our style sheet and our HTML documents are talking to each other. So I'm saving this and going back to the HTML. I'm going to use my Alt-B shortcut to launch that, and there we go. So there is my header. It is red. It is 960 pixels across, and it is centered. We can also, of course, we can style the type that goes inside of that if we wanted to, which I think is probably a good idea. I'm going to maybe go ahead and make that, I'll make the text white. And maybe I'll make the font family Arial for this example. And we can even potentially give it a size. Okay, cool. Give that one more save. Come back over here one more time. We'll do the test. And there we go. Cool. All right, that is looking good. And everything is working there. So we're going to go ahead and knock out the navigation and the content and the footer areas then as well. So a lot of this ends up being fairly redundant. You quite honestly can copy and paste a lot of this code. For the first one though, I'm just going to go ahead and hand code it all out. Again, next I'm doing the nav. And again, it has got the width. The width on the assignment sheet again is 960 pixels. The height is 20. And again, from there, we can start to style it with a background color. I'll go blue in this case. Again, if I want it to center, which would be a nice touch, I can give it a auto margin. And again, for the type, I think just for sake of speed here, go ahead and just copy and paste the text so that all the text is going to just be consistent throughout all of this. In fact, I could even set all of those text controls if I want them to be the same throughout the entire project. That's something I could even do just by calling out to the body tag up top and taking care of that. I'll do that on the next example that I'm coding on grid 2, just so you guys can see that, how we can cut down on the amount of code that we write and control that perhaps a little bit better. Cool, so I'm going to give that a save. Again, I'll bounce back over here to grid 1. I'll give that a look, and there we go. So in this case, the height of the container is not big enough for 36 pixel type. So let's head back over here. The container itself, I think it was only a height of 20. So actually, I'm going to go with smaller type in that case. All right, 16 pixel type will be fine, I think, on that. All right, so next comes the content area. Now remember the banner. Did I type the banner? I don't think I did the banner. Yeah, I didn't. I forgot to add the banner in here. Banner comes after the navigation. That is the div with a class of banner. Okay. Let's clean that up. So I noticed a little red, quotes there. So that's telling me there's something wrong. It looks like I had a double quote there. No biggie. All right, so that was the line of code that I had to go back and add real quick. So the banner as well as the content area, we're going to handle those slightly differently because they are classes. So I can't just call out to banner like this because there's no tag, there's no HTML tag called banner. You can see it, it highlights it, tells us there's an error. Rather, we have to put a dot in front of it. A dot calls out to a class. There's still a squiggly line there, but I think this will get fixed when we actually start putting stuff in here. So again, it is just a matter of potentially putting in a height. Spell that out. There we go. Height on the banner is 960 pixels. The width on this is, no, width is 960 pixels. The height is what, 200. All right, so let's see. Again, I'll go ahead and give myself a auto margin. So margin : auto, that will center things for us. And again, the rest of this is relatively redundant. Background color. Actually, let's go to that background color right now. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and copy paste some of the text controls just to kind of speed this video recording up. All right, cool. Let's save it. Let's test it out. Again, make sure, notice how I'm testing this out with every container that I do, making sure as I'm going, each and every one works. I strongly recommend that with whether you're doing an exercise or building an entire website, you want to test as you're going so that if something is broken, you can address it right away. It's very, very tough to wait until you're done coding everything and then finding out that something's broken and then trying to figure out like, where is the broken area? This way, as I'm testing, if something's not working, I know immediately where the broken, area of code is to address. Okay. All right, cool. So we've got a content area to do here next. At this point, again, to save some time, I'm going to copy a whole banner chunk of code and I'm going to tweak this. So the next one is the content area. It is also a class, so I do need to keep the little dot right there. The height of this on the spec sheet is 600 pixels. Width is 960. Background color, let's change that up. Let's go with yellow. And I'm going to keep the other code there. So it's really just height, width, and background color at this point that I'm needing to change on these. So again, give that a save. Once again, launch it, and we are good for that yellow strong. Okay, cool. And finally, we've got the footer to address. Now, the footer, there is an HTML tag of footer. So we can just call out to the tag, no dot. It's not a class. And we can, again, go ahead and do our height. It's only a 20 pixel container. Do our width. 60 like all the rest. I can go ahead and do a margin of auto. Background color. Let's bookend this with red once again. And again, I can copy and paste some of these text controls. All right, cool. There we go. Give that a save. Test this out. That's what it's looking like. And that's what this assignment essentially looks like, guys. It is, it's more about learning how to make the grids than anything else with this particular project. Let's build one more together here. Let's see. Oh, you know what? There were a couple of things on here that we didn't address yet on this first grid. If you notice on the assignment sheet, there is a 10 pixel margin between the content area and the banner. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about on the spec sheet, there should be a 10 pixel margin between the banner and the content area. So let's take care of that real quick as well. I'm going to do that in the style on the content container itself here. So for content, to add that margin, we're going to go ahead and put a margin dash top That's the style. And what was it, 10 pixels? Yep, 10 pixels. So what that's saying is add a margin to the top of the container. Okay. Looking at the assignment sheet, there's also a 60 pixel margin at the top of the footer. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and do a margin dash top, 60 pixels. Give that a save, and let's test this out one more time. Yep, cool. There is my 10 pixel margin between content and banner. And there's my 60 pixel margin with the footer. So looking at the assignment sheet, there's nothing necessarily radically different between grid 2 and grid 1, different dimensions and a few different margins, but nothing necessarily new from what we just did in terms of learning things. So to talk about something new, I'm going to go ahead and skip over and do grid 3 next. I feel like you guys should be able to handle grid 2 if you follow the same procedures that we did with grid 1. But let's take care of getting grid 3 in there, because that one uses some percentages instead. So just like grid 2, or just like grid 1, grid 2, and now grid 3, I'm going to make a brand new document. No, I'm not going to make a brand new document. Sorry. I am again going to open up my starter document. And again, I'll do a save as on that. Save. I'll put that in the appropriate assignment folder here. Call that grid 3. Okay. Cool. So this one I'm going to basically, I'm just going to bang out fairly fast here. We do need a header. We need nav. We need a banner. And this is going to be a div with a class of banner. I'll put this double quotes again. I tend to like to code those myself and don't take the time to let Visual Studio Code do that for me. Let's see, there is another div with a class of subnav. Notice the spelling there. That's something I need to mirror inside of my style sheet. Got a content area, again, that's a div. Class of content. And lastly, there is a footer. Save. And I'm going to make a new document now. This is going to be a style sheet. This is going to be grid 3 style. There we go. And we can begin to bang this out. So starting with the header. Header is going to have a width. This width is going to be percentage based. So rather than px, I'm going to put a percentage sign. And height pixels. I am going to go ahead and give this a color, a background color. For this example, I'm not going to worry about the font options. I know you guys can do that, but that'll save, again, some time on this video. I would like to see the font style, though, for this. Okay. Again, for sake of speed, I am going to go ahead and take care of the rest with just some copy and paste. So next would be the nav. The nav has a height of 18 pixels, width of 100%, and I'll just make that a different color here. Banner comes next. Remember, banner is a class, so it begins with a dot. and 100%. And a height of 480. I'll change the color on this. Copy that since that's got the dot for the class already set and ready to go. Next one is subnav, and again, I'm going to make sure I'm using the same exact spelling that I did in the HTML on the class name. This has only an 18 pixel height. Background color. Let's go gray with that. Next one would be the class of content. And modifying height. And actually, yeah, there is a color picker here as well. We talked about that, I know, before. Certainly use that. Or you can just type in a value there. Boy, oh boy. The windows are wonderful, but sometimes they can get in the way in terms of trying to help a little bit too much. Again, I'm just going to go. Let's see. In the last we've got the footer. Height on that is 24 pixels. And again, we can go ahead and get the background color. This will not be as pretty as the others in that it is I haven't styled the type. Oh, we haven't linked this either. So I do have to go into the head and I do have to add a link tag. Style sheet. And then the href is the actual path. So we're linking to the file called grid3 style.css. And do that closing caret. There we go. Cool. Give it a save. We'll give it a test. Awesome. And these containers are 100%. Right? So they now expand and contract and fit the entire browser window. There are still some grid3. There are still some margins that are required on this document. So in between the header and the nav and the footer, we can go ahead and add those as well here real quick. So it looks like in the spec sheet above the nav, there's a margin top of 10 pixels. Looks like they all are 10 pixel margins. So I'm just going to copy that. Also looks like above the banner on the spec sheet. Got one there. Above the subnav, pretty much most of these. Above the content. And then above the footer. Cool. Good. Give that a save. Give it a test. There we go. Looking good. Cool. Sheet number 4 is a combination of percentages for widths and fixed widths then for the majority of the body. Copy there and give yourself some auto margins on those in the center. They'll look real good. But I hope this helps. This should definitely give you the tools that you need to complete this assignment. And as always, guys, if you need any help, don't be afraid to reach out to me. All right.